This is TWiT.
The Intercept, last year, in Brazil, published articles based on leaked cell phone messages that raised questions about the integrity and the motives of key members of Brazil's justice system, in particular an anti-corruption organization. Glenn Greenwald has now, who writes for The Intercept and wrote these stories, has now been arrested and accused of being part of a criminal organization and cybercrimes. I have mixed feelings about Glenn Greenwald, but this sounds very much, Greenwald, who is, of course, an ardent opponent of Brazil's president, the authoritarian Bolsonaro, is now facing some serious jeopardy because of his work as a journalist. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I share with you. I think that and Snowden was also Greenwald's story, and Snowden came out and said, beware here. And I agree. One thing we haven't grappled with in our field is what if somebody did steal the data, not Glenn Greenwald, but somebody else? What is the issue of using it? And what journalists like Greenwald say is, it doesn't matter where the information came from. The public has a right to know the information once it's there, and once we know it, we have an obligation to share it. And that's been his pretty dogmatic view. And I think I have to, by default, presume Glenn Greenwald's side on this.
Well, partly because of the
government, and B, because he's a journalist.
Yeah.
And
the environment he's working in.
Yes, exactly.
He hasn't been detained. He says, I will continue to publish and cast the case against him as a test of Brazil's democracy. We will not be intimidated, Greenwald said, by these tyrannical attempts to silence journalists. Prosecutors say they intercepted messages between Greenwald and the hackers, saying the journalist played a clear role in facilitating the commission of a crime. Incidentally, that's exactly what U.S. prosecutors are saying about WikiLeaks. Julian Assange.
Don't get old people. Julian
Assange. Is he in prison in the U.S. or he's just a warrant?
No, he's still awaiting extradition.
He's still in
I was about to say, is he in the U.S.? He's in the U.S. now?
No, he's in the U.K. still, but they're trying to extradite him. And that's the accusation, is not that he accepted these documents and published them, but that he encouraged.
Did he encourage
Chelsea Manning to
do it?
To do it. And there's similar to these intercepted messages, there's chat conversation. Very, very troubling. At the same time, I think that a journalist should not encourage criminal activities. I don't know. Is that, Jeff? You're the professor of journalism. What would you tell your students?
Not to encourage or take part in a criminal activity.
Yeah.
You don't break the law.
Well, wait a minute, though. Daniel Ellsberg broke the law when he sent the Pentagon papers.
Daniel Ellsberg wasn't the journalist. Daniel Ellsberg was the whistleblower who then came to the journalist.
So Daniel Ellsberg was the criminal.
Journalist, knowing that it was stolen, still said, this is a public interest. Now that you have it, yes, we're going to publish it. That's been the way of journalism since then and before.
So you're not, so it's a fine line, but you're not allowed to say, go steal, Daniel Ellsberg, go to steal those Pentagon papers, Xerox them and send them to us. But you can accept them if Ellsberg on his own does that and sends them to you in an unmarked package, and you open it up and say, oh, my God.
Or even if he comes into your office and says, I just stole this and you can have it.
Even then.
Yes, I mean, that's what Snowden did.
So in our terms,
but if you're buying stolen iPhones,
well, that's the question. So Brian Lamb, Gizmodo, iPhone is left on a bar. Somebody finds it, calls him up, and says, "Hey, it looks like this is the new iPhone. You want to buy it?" That's breaking the law.
Depends. In that case, did Lamb know?
He didn't think it was stolen. He thought it was found.
It wasn't stolen. It was unauthorized, but it wasn't stolen.
Yeah, so that's not that's not breaking the law, or is it?
I don't think that was this much breaking the law. That was what Apple sent their own police after him. Literally,
although you could argue that paying for it. I mean, is that wrong of the journalist? I mean, in the U.S. at least, we don't pay for.
You wouldn't
content.
do that.
No, I wouldn't. But
no.
I don't know.
Nor would I.
I have a stolen Sonos.
I honestly, from time to time, I'm offered leaked photos of phones and things. I honestly do not accept those. I say, don't send me that. I don't want to know about it. Partly because I'm not in any race to get...
You don't traffic in scoops.
Yeah, I'm not in a race to get scoops. And I don't think anybody should be. Because that's where bad stuff can happen. I think
scoops, true scoops, not just like I found out about a product, 2 days before, but a true scoop is worth it. If you can find out something that someone doesn't want you to know, that is, again, in the public interest, not just prurient. I can never say that word.
You said it perfectly.
I think that's important, and you should be focused on bringing those to your readers. But
yeah, I mean, if you get papers that say Vietnam was a farce and
even something as simple as, hey, I'm talking to developers off the record, and they're saying to me, Apple is telling us we can't work with this company anymore. That's of interest to anybody who's working in that community, or so those are scoops.
See, and part of the reason I don't want the leaked photos or leaks of any kind, and I can't remember if it was Evan Blass, one of the guys who routinely publishes these, kind of sounded like he was having a mini crisis of conscience on Twitter. He said, I just found out from a guy who leaked me some phones that he was fired as a result. He's unemployed. His family is, destitute. I feel a little guilty. And then I don't know if it's Ev Leaks or who, but anyway, he continued doing what he was doing. I don't want to be responsible for that, but maybe I'm in the position where I don't have to be.
It's also.
Do I feel a bit of sadness when someone says something they absolutely should not have said to me that I'm going to report? I do.
Yeah.